Hey Meg,
Hey, happy Tuesday. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Just it's a rainy and gray week in Syracuse. How about you? How are you?
I'll tell you what, I bragged for like a whole year about how everywhere I traveled, it was like exceptionally warm and sunny. I'm like, I can't even catch a season if I wanted to. Literally everywhere. New York, Syracuse, I can't remember all the places, but like everywhere I went, Boston. And then this week, last week I went to St. Louis and it was pouring rain, like thunder, lightning, torrential downpour for this huge conference. Everyone was like running inside. And then I flew to Miami and I was there for a couple of days. And when I first landed, I was like, it's cloudy, but it's nice. And then it was like wind, rain, couldn't eat outside. You see everyone running with an umbrella. I'm like, this is weird. West Palm Beach, I get back yesterday morning. I wake up to a thunder and lightning storm. And I'm heading to New York City tomorrow, and I just checked, and it's like 99% chance of rain. So I bragged, like you bragged too close to the sun, and then the
Yeah.
universe is like, yeah, all right, you're gonna learn a lesson here. So I've had an umbrella with me for in four cities now. It will be tomorrow.
Oh my goodness. Do you have a good umbrella? Has it
No,
helped?
no,
Oh,
yeah, I don't. So actually,
okay.
it goes like inside out if it's
Yeah.
windy. And I think it might even say like another school's name that my kids don't go to and we've never worked with. So that's my umbrella situation. It's not good.
Mm. Well, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for a non-free umbrella, but that
That would help. If Phil's looking still for a Mother's Day gift for me, maybe he'll watch this and get
Oh, okay. This is a test. This is a test. We won't know the results for another week or so, but
this.
just stay tuned. Stay tuned. So, Meg, may I ask you something?
Please do, because I've missed talking to you since last week.
Okay, well, you just got back from a conference, and I think that an overarching, really interesting thing about you and Phil is that you are not only business partners, but also life partners. So you're married, you have two children. Once in a while, our work demands that both of you travel. That was the case with the conference that you just went to. So, how do you manage that as a family when both of you are on the road?
Good question. Not an easy answer. I don't always have a solution. This comes up often when we are meeting with other people who are starting their own businesses or in any families where both parents have a job that requires traveling and we trade, horror stories is what it feels like. We used to have a nanny when our kids were really little, and that made it a lot easier to travel. But we have had kids who were always sick, not like a little cold or a stomach ache, pneumonia, asthma attacks, allergic reactions. It was like one thing after another. We spent way too many hours at the Golisano Children's Hospital in Syracuse when we were living there. And part of why we were really motivated to move to West Palm Beach was for the great weather, because people said that their kids and their families were like way healthier, always being out in the sun and just having like humidity and warmth all the time. That has absolutely been true for us, that we have a lot less sick days in our house. It's been a really big blessing, but we moved away from all of our family. So no parents, no siblings. We had a nanny who became a teacher, so we tried to plan the travel where we both had to go around when she could come to Florida on her breaks. And in New York, you get breaks oftentimes in the winter and the spring, like February, April. So for the past few years, we've traveled around her schedule when we're able to. But sometimes we'll ask my sister, who just came last week, to stay for the whole week and be with our kids. She's a photographer, so she's happy to make her schedule around that, which we are very lucky, lucky, lucky for. And sometimes I'll ask my mom the same thing. She's like a mostly retired, sometimes part-time nurse. The truth is, we're always piecing it together. And because we have been in that situation that many parents relate to, we have had to start traveling separately a lot more than we used to. So Phil and I only work on usually two of the same clients, which probably is a surprise to people who see us online, at least together all of the time, or who see us at a conference together. But for the most part, when we are together, it's usually day trips. So somewhere in Florida, or I admit that we fly in and out of New York or Boston sometimes in the same day. And we have babysitters who are on schedules here who know that they'll always come on Wednesday nights or always come on Thursday nights, or when they, I'll say, will you get my kids from school and feed them and then come pick us up from the airport? So it's like a huge point of stress as a parent who works, and I could never do my job all from one place. It would never work. And Phil can definitely not, because he works on so many client accounts. And even though we've been fortunate in our industry to get so much accomplished virtually, I think we all benefit from that. There are times where you just have to be there in person for campaign cabinet meetings or to see presidents of universities who really want to talk in confidence about prospects and strategies. So much more gets done in person. We know that. So we try to split up when we have to be together. We rely on the part-time help we have here, or we plan way ahead of time to our family, buy them a plane ticket and try to make it work. But it's not always perfect. How about you? I know you don't have to really travel as much for your role, but still you're a single mom to a daughter who has to get on and off the bus. And like, how does that work for you?
Well, I am very fortunate also with family support because my parents live 3 blocks away and they're both retired. They do a lot of support for their 8 grandchildren. So, everyone's school aged, so it's not like they have anybody full time, but they do a lot of like, after school ad hoc pickups, emergency, travel. My sister doesn't travel a lot for work, but her husband does because he's a pilot. So they support both of us when we need it. And my daughter's just extremely comfortable. That's like actually the only like, she's spoiled by the fact that like her grandparents are her only babysitters and I am too. So
That is
yeah,
really nice.
very, very lucky.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really talk enough about how expensive it is to have childcare. We choose to send our kids to private school because we live in an area that that's our preference for how they approach education, as opposed to where we're zoned for the public school. And just like fundamentally speaking, across states, I think the approach to education is so different. So we sort of knew in coming to Florida that we knew the school we wanted our kids to go to, but the school day ends and then you paid for that. You choose,
Hmm.
right? But you paid for it. And then you have to pay for someone to care for your kids otherwise. And
Yeah.
I read things where people are like, we weren't meant to do this alone. And I do feel that even more now at 7 and 9 years old than I could even think through when they were like 6 months and two or something. Like, I really feel that it's so hard to not have a physical village, even though I text my friends, I talk to you every day. Like, I talk to people every day who are dealing with child stuff, but I long so deeply for a world where people can like truly help each other out with childcare. And I think in this like corporate, more equitable world for women and men, it seems impossible. Like that seems out of reach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Something a little bit more collective. I mean, yeah, I know people do, I've heard tell of these like, groups where like, you're in the group and then like each time like one person watches like all the kids and that rotates, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and it's like a babysitting share so that like, because sometimes when you think about like making plans and you're like, okay, I mean, because I have my parents and they're wonderful, or even one of my siblings, like if I make a plan to like go to dinner with friends, it's like I think about that, like, oh, if I didn't have my family and I had to pay for a babysitter, like this dinner would cost double. And it's just like, yeah, it's
I
a lot.
know. I think I might hire like a full time. I used to have a full time nanny, and then I'm like, oh, my kids are older. I don't need it. But now my kids are like, I love dance and I want to go to 2 classes next year instead of one. Or my son loved soccer, and this year we let him try out for a travel team. And like the amount of time it takes to drive kids to their things, of course, you have to trust the person driving them and staying there. And like that requires so much. You're never fully just like not somehow thinking even a little bit about your kids and making sure that they're safe, which is why I love when my sister can come because I'm like, it's my sister. Like she's
It's
like their
priceless.
second mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't have to worry. But when you hire someone and they're not your family, there's just like that little piece of your brain that's hoping, like, okay, I'm speaking right now. I cannot think about my kids, but you're like, oh, I know they're driving right now from point A to point B, and like, please let it be safe, you know?
Oh my goodness. Yes, 100%. And it's May 6th now, so that means you already better have your summer camps like picked out and logged. And that just, I still, my platform that I stand on is year-round school, in my fictional presidential race. Cause I'm like, what? Like, I don't
Yeah.
have the summer off. What is the system that you do? But
I know. Well, we should write to HR when we hang up and say we need the summers off.
yeah, yeah. Would that be Phil at georgephilanthropy.com?
I don't know if that
It,
person would read the email, but we could try.
no. Yeah, maybe we can set up some time.
Well, thanks for the question. I like that this was a little bit unusual but practical because we're all of us moms are wondering the same things about each other.
That's right. And maybe we can start that group babysitting share. So maybe some people can join us.
I think so. I think we should. I like it. All right, Sam. Well, I'll see you probably later today and then again next week for another question. I'll come with something for you.
All right. See ya 5 days a week, Meg.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.